You have to make a lot of art, but you also need to see a lot of art. Do you get it? Not so sure? Hold on, that's where we're going in the next concept. I know, you're like, I get it, I have to make art and I have to see art, but I'm going to explain some reasons why you need to do both that are probably not what you're expecting. I mean, all artists have to make art and all artists go see art, right? That's a true statement, but there's a lot more going on if you're aware of some basic ideas. Number one, 10,000 hours can make anybody an expert at anything. 10,000 hours is a lot of time. Keep in mind that 2,080 hours a year is a full-time job. So we're talking years worth of a full-time job of making art. And then you're an expert. Now, lots of things involved in art. You don't have to be making art, but the fact is that the reality of making a lot of art means you're going to be better at making it. Now that's important because we don't start out being really good, at least not all of us, right? We have to get there and develop our style and our voice and our technique over time. And that's really critical. I mean, that is a lot going on there. I mean, you're not just making art. You're refining, you're learning, you're getting more self-aware, you're discovering different styles and different palettes of color. It's very important to be practicing your craft as often and as much as you can. I was shocked when I realized that this statistic of 10,000 hours were out there. So I went and I figured out about how many images a week I would shoot and how many hours I knew I was putting into that. And keep in mind that I started off as a purist photographer. It came down to almost 18,000 hours. 18,000 hours. Now, for the most part, I was working a full-time job during this time. So just consider that for a moment. Over the course of 10 years, 18,000 hours. That's 1,800 hours of photography a year. It was almost a full-time job. I mean, now my voice and my style are very recognized, but that only happened because of the sheer amount of time I put into it and realizing a year into it, I need to up my game. See, time teaches you something, especially if you go back and review your work. A lot of us will say things though, like, I don't even look at my old stuff, but you kind of have to. You have to gauge where you've been, where you are, and where you're going. That will teach you if you're in a rut, or if you're evolving, or maybe that you need to refine some other things, or bring back some skills you used to have. I know it's hard to look at the work you've done in the past. Believe me, I have groups of work that I can't stand looking at, but I make myself do it at least once a year, review where I've been from the very beginning all the way through now. And that's part of that 10,000 hours. No joke. I am really looking at and dissecting what I've done and what my topics have been to find out what it has to say to me. Now, we're going to talk more about what does your art have to say to you in a very nice video concept that I really enjoy that some find hard. So I'm not going to go too much into it now, but it's something that you should definitely be aware of. Why else should you be making a lot of art? Did you know that the artists who make $32,000 or more a year, statistically speaking, make 395 pieces a year? That's a crazy, insane amount of artwork. I mean, that's more than a piece a day. Now, I don't know what size or medium they're working in, but I can tell you that I make a lot of art and I don't come anywhere near that. A lot of my followers and friends will say, you're so prolific. I don't come anywhere near 395. Now that's just a statistic, but being aware of it will tell you something that will help you to gauge how much art you make or where you stand in the overall realm of things. Now, again, that's a statistic, it's an average. There are definitely the outliers that would make way more than that, making far fewer pieces, and those who make far less, making far more. But the idea is it's a baseline. So putting in all the time that you can to making art really does quite a bit. The other thing is, at some point, maybe you find that you've made so much of it that you're boring yourself and you need to try new things. See, that's another thing that is what happens with a lot of hours of making art, is you're encouraged to go further and do more. I mean, it came to a point with photography where, why am I doing this? What can I do to keep this fun and interesting, because I love doing the photography? And that's how the evolution started. I mean, I was a purist photographer, and now I go all the way to, Japanese watercolor and ink, or to mixed media. I would have never thought that would have happened. But to keep things new and fresh and to keep myself moving forward and growing, I evolved. So practice gives you evolution as well. And here's the next thing. For as much as you're making art, and that has things to tell you, going and seeing art will inform you on tons of things. I mean, there are all kinds of things you can keep in mind as you're going out and viewing art, and things you'll learn. For example, I did not like propaganda artwork. I really just didn't understand it. And then I had the opportunity while in Vietnam to see Vietnam propaganda artwork from the voice of the Vietnamese. And it hit me like a ton of rocks falling on me. I couldn't believe it. And what I learned was that it's not that I didn't like propaganda art. I just had not seen any type of propaganda art that really impacted me. Wow. I thought for sure I would never like it. But now I understand that if there's a style of art I don't like, it's because maybe I need to see more of it to find the really good stuff. Let's face it, not all art is made equal. So that's one thing. Another thing is it can really inform you as you're out in the world looking at art in various different ways, how other artists handle themselves. You can learn what you want to be and don't want to be by what they do that annoys you or that you like. That can help you to define how you're going to move forward from a social media standpoint, or how often you show. Next, you can actually get a gauge of where your pricing should be. All you have to do is see where your artwork fits in and what's a similar piece of work, a similar quality of work, similar size might go for. What's the range? This is something you can find out by looking at art. Another thing is you can learn to have a greater appreciation of art because you are viewing a lot of art. You can expand what you like. You can expand what you know, which will lead to that greater appreciation. Now, I'm not saying you should spend all of your time doing this, but I'm saying you should set aside a certain amount of time where you will be out in the world seeing art. And if you don't know where to start with what you love. Start with something that's a similar style. And while you're out there seeing it, define what makes your voice different in your own mind. See, we're going to go out and we're going to see all kinds of different abstract artists, but what makes me different? Everybody is different from each other, right? I mean, we all have a voice, but knowing what makes you different allows you to define your voice in words. And that's actually kind of important because then you'll be able to speak about it better. Don't crush yourself and don't crush your work when you're out there doing a little bit of a comparison, but just keep it in mind. All artists are created equal in my mind. There are just things that set us apart from each other, and that's voice. And that voice is really important to recognize. Here's another thing. If you're making work that is like everybody else's, have you clearly defined your voice? You know, they say in photography, everything's been done. And that's a very true statement. Everybody's a photographer and everything has been done. But voice does matter. There are some things that are just done with a different voice. And knowing that is important. But also not doing what everybody else is doing is really critical. I mean, I look at a lot of stuff in any given week on art. And like right now, pouring is huge. Pouring anything liquid is just ginormous. Everybody's pouring something, and that's fine. I'll definitely try it out, and that's another great thing about looking at art, is you can discover new techniques and new things to try. And I always do. I try them out. And in fact, my followers have learned that because I take action from viewing art and seeing what's out there, if they tag me, enough people tag me in a post on a technique, I'll try it out and maybe I'll even put it on video for them to see. And then I'll let them know, is this as easy as it looks or not? But I wouldn't be able to do that if I wasn't seeing art. I mean, this is the first steps towards really clearly defining you, your space, and what galleries are good for you, what venues are good for you, what art shows are good for you, or what art fairs. I mean, there's all kinds of options out there. There are limitless options for artists, but not all of them are right for you. So by going out into the real world or the online world and defining what is right for you, you're going to have a much easier time navigating that field of all the opportunities. And when you do that, you will be making educated risks on the things you decide to get involved in. I mean, really, if you took every opportunity that came your way for an artist that is out there, you would have no time to make art. We need to be careful about those things. So again, we hear this word multitasking. If you're making art and seeing art, there are a lot of other things that you can take and learn from that experience. And they will be very empowering to you because knowledge is power. And knowing that a certain gallery is right for you gives you the power the knowledge to have the power to make the right decision. I mean, some opportunities are actually harmful to you. And that's a problem. If you decide to go down the route of a harmful opportunity, you've not only wasted time where you could be making art, energy, you've probably wasted money on some front, and maybe it even hurt your name. I mean, here's the reality. We are always going to say this. This is the business of you, and your name matters. So doing the right things is honestly the best policy. Doing everything is rarely the right policy. So by getting out there, you can just start to define which things are good for you, which places are good for you. And that's huge. That's half the battle right there. And that multitasking is going on. See, as artists, we kind of always need to be multitasking. At the very same time when you're out there seeing art, strike up conversations with people. Now, we're going to get to that more a little bit later on, but that's an important part of it, that social engagement, that being open and accessible. And by going out there and learning these things, you now have more discussion points so that when you are out there, you have more to say. I mean, there's really not a loss here. It's a win-win. And so doing these steps can really make a big difference. Practice, go and see things, do a little comparison. Again, don't crush yourself. And you're going to hear me say that a lot too, because as we are artists, that is our nature, to crush ourselves, and we need to nip that in the bud. So practicing that a little bit is also going to be really empowering. You're not comparing artwork to artwork. I never actually want you to do that because your voice is unique. It should be unique. And so to compare it to anybody else's voice is a problem. But you absolutely can give yourself a comparison and basis to know areas where you need to improve or you could continue moving forward. Now, do we have some homework to go along with this? Well, it's pretty self-evident. Make some damn art, go see some damn art, and enjoy it. Because again, if you're not having fun, you're probably doing it wrong. And if you find that you're not having fun in the going and seeing of art, then maybe you're going to the wrong places. And maybe this is the time to find out how you can make this something social with your other artist friends too. See where they're going and what they're doing. It doesn't matter what art you see. All of it can inform you on some level. So go do those things and have fun.